right? Keeping his pawns on d3 and e4. And often in almost all e4 openings, the knight makes its way to g3. At the same time, you have to be very, very careful. Knight to c5, you don't want to give away your light squared bishop, and you don't want a total liquidation in the center. I don't like this.
Especially as white, symmetrical pawn structure, no d4 break on the cards anymore for Alireza. So now he needs to, it's going to be a maneuvering game, right? First question, where do you put that knight from d2? Because you need to open up that bishop on c1. You still have to complete your development. Meanwhile, black's knight can already fall back on e6. Now it's being forced to, Daniel, and start eyeing those dark squares, specifically the f4.
Whoa. I'm very surprised at knight f4 because typically allowing the e-pawn to inch forward to e5 like that is a bad idea. You're taught to avoid this. So I don't think Magnus needed to rush with knight f4, maybe feeling the pressure of the clock. And knight to d6 apparently gives a big advantage for white. Bishop takes d6. Is there an intermezzo with queen to d3 hitting h7 and setting up e takes d6? That is sick. No, but that's unfindable.
But it's beautiful. It's a very cool idea because, and the point you need that intermezzo is because of the massive pin along the e-file. So you can't recapture on d6. And now queen to d3, this would be game over. You just blundered into the whole line. Queen d3, as you pointed out. That is one heck of a move. Queen takes pawn is not just a check. Queen h8 is game over.
And if you play g6, wasting a tempo, now you can play e takes d6. The rook is defended twice. And the fact that black's rooks are disconnected will cost him the game. Black has to drop back to f8. This is a disaster, and Alireza missed it. That was a huge chance. It wasn't winning for white, Tanya. I mean, knight d6, black could have slid the rook away, but it would have been big, big trouble. Now Magnus has a chance to slide his rook away from the line of fire. But bishop e6, I think, is what he's going to choose. This was so hard to see. I mean, how do you even know that a tactic like this exists? I've never seen this pattern myself. And the current position, he's done it anyway.
Because you can't take it twice. There's a c4. There's a pin and win.
Magnus missed it for the second time. This time the idea is totally different. Bishop e6 by Magnus, his last move. Very neglectful. And now he's in huge trouble. What does he do? c4 is coming anyway. b7 is hanging. f4 is going to be hanging. Black's king is in trouble. You can't take twice on d6. You might have to give up a piece here if you're Magnus Carlsen. You might have to take twice on d6 and then take on b4 and try to save that piece down endgame.
Unbelievable. And Magnus on the camera, he was shaking his head as well. He completely missed this knight jump to d6. And with the championship on the line, this could be the decisive moment. This could be the moment that really matters. And look at that. He looks away. There's no increment. He needs to make a decision. He needs to make it fast. Daniel, what happens if he just slides the rook? What if he tries to defend everything in the position?
Rook b8, for example, is on the. It's possible, but white will play c4 anyway, tossing the knight out of d5, and then the f4 pawn is going to fall. And once the f4 pawn falls, white has this mating idea with queen h6, knight g5. I think that the most prudent option for Magnus is to take twice on d6. Well, the most prudent option was to not allow knight d6, but having allowed it, he's going to go rook d8. He's not going to give up the piece. He is in mortal danger here. c5 by Alireza. Look at this beast. Look at this beast on d6. Bishop to e4. Alireza not even hurrying Tanya to take the pawn on f4. He's going to do it in the best possible version. He's totally winning.
Alireza's in beast mode right now.
Knight d4.
I mean, he doesn't rush with that move. c5 played bishop e4. You're pointing out, bring out that other knight c6. Oh. The position is just falling apart for Magnus.
Total collapse. Magnus has to play this miserable move, bishop to d7. Now Alireza is going to take this knight. I think that it's the perfect time to just take on f4. And this knight on d6 is going to seal the deal. Alireza is also up 2.5 minutes on the clock. This game, Magnus is reeling. He's shocked right now. And Alireza is playing this perfectly. Rook b8, still fighting though. It's not over.
It's never over when you're playing against Magnus, but look at the position. He's up a pawn. Look at those two knights. Yes, you've got the bishop pair is black, but there's no hope for the bishops so far. Completely killed by White's activity. Knight on d4, knight on d6, beautifully placed. At some point, the c pawn moves forward to c6. Daniel, it might even be possible right now. This is going from bad to worse, and look at the clock situation. Magnus touching the 4-minute mark. He's disgusted with his position.
He's completely lost, and I think the only chance for Magnus might actually be to try to swap all of the rooks, take on b1, play rook b8, and pray that Alireza plays c6 prematurely. I don't see a single way for Black to survive longer than a few moves, but we know that Magnus is not going to go down easy. He does play rook b8. I like this approach, and if you're Firouzja, you trade on b8. Do you play c6? When is the right moment to strike and to cash in your chips? Is it now? Is it now?
It's so tempting. It's so tempting to just start pushing this passer. There's no attack on it. You're hitting the bishop. You could also play really slow because what does Black want? What is Magnus's next move?
Tanya, Greg Shahadi in the chat says, what we're all thinking, this is the worst position I have ever seen. It really might be. Black has no moves. You can play h4. You can play this Magnus style, right? Get your king to a better spot. But you don't want to overdo it. At some point, you need to cash in your chips. The position is not going to win itself. And I think Firouzja is calculating c6. Oh my God.
And I would be so tempted to play c6 right now because you really don't see what's wrong with it. The only thing is that the d6 knight gets slightly destabilized, so you might have to watch out for future moves like f6, targeting that e5 pawn.
Knight f3 and c6. I thought bishop to e8 was a slightly annoying response. Alireza tries to find a better moment to do it. He swings his queen to b4, trampolining from side to side, chiseling his way into Black's position. Can Magnus stop it with bishop c6? Does he run into knight d4? Maybe the bishop can park on a8. Huh. Look at that defensive resource by Carlsen. Not so fast. Not so fast. Alireza still has some work to do, Tanya.
Magnus, you have to play this all the way through, and you have to play your best chess to beat him, even from this position.
Yes.
Even for someone like Alireza Firouzja, you cannot write him off. Give him one chance, and your advantage will be gone. Knight d4 really wants to be played, but Daniel, that does leave the e5 pawn once again tender. So once the bishop falls back, you'll have to answer some questions. What you're doing about the threat of queen takes pawn. Do you want to commit with f4? Do you want to overpush? But look at that. It's another
Alireza jumping into c8. Man, the back rank has been so adroitly used by minor pieces throughout this match. Bishop to b8 from Magnus. Now we have knight to c8, and it's Alireza's stallion who might have the final word. Is he just going after this pawn? Why not?
Why not? Why
Help
not?
yourself.
But the knight is trapped on a7. That bishop from a4, it takes away the key squares. So you've got to be a little careful over the next few moves to make sure that the knight has a way home. Or at least you have some tactics like c6 always.
Locating forced win. Locating forced win. Where is it? Because knight to d4, Tanya, bishop takes e5. Very, very easy to forget that this pawn is now very, very tender. You would love to play knight a7 to d6. That would be the best move. Queen b7?
Why not?
That's got to be it. That's the secret sauce.
Bishop. If you take the pawn on e5... Wow. Daniel, as you're pointing out, queen b7 is an option. Knight d4, I think you're rushing in because the e5 pawn falls. And right now, Alireza is thinking it's good that he's paused. He's got a minute on the clock. He knows this is the critical moment. If he gets it right over the next couple of moves, he can blitz out the rest, well, bullet out the rest of the game. What are the chances of Magnus saving this one, Daniel?
Non-zero. It's higher than what the eval bar might have you believe, because there's nothing more frustrating than staring at a position, thinking that there must be a forced win and not seeing it, watching your clock dwindle. The one silver lining for Magnus is that there's no increment, and in a crazy time scramble situation, anything can happen. Alireza is investing a ton of time. He knows that this might be the game-deciding moment, and I think that without queen b7, this game is going to go on for another while. He has to find that move, Tanya. If he doesn't find it, Magnus has a chance, and he's found it. He's going to bring the hammer down with c6 on the next move.
And how do you even fight that? The bishop in c7 is pinned. Knight d4 is always in the air. c6 is coming in. Magnus Carlsen is
D4,
feeling the
C6,
pressure right now.
Queen
We've got
D8
moves.
maybe.
Queen d8. Can you take on d4?
Or can you go Queen B4 and fork the bishop and the pawn? Now another pawn
Very
falls.
nice.
Magnus is going to be down 3 pawns, and the C pawn's going to seal the deal. This is over. Now it's totally winning.
The last time we said it, we saw a massive
That's right.
turnaround. So, Daniel, this match, you just can't call a result ever until it's over. But Queen B4, the difference in these positions is that it's hard to see the compensation or even setting up of tricks as black. White's pieces and White's pawns are just dominating the position.
Yeah, and the knight on a7 is safe. I would try bishop c2. If I'm Carlsen, I'm going to go bishop c2, queen takes d4. Keep the queens on the board. That's your only chance. If the queens come off the board, the c pawn is going to seal the deal. But Tanya, queen takes d4, queen to b8. There is one more hurdle to cross for Alireza. Bishop to b6 becomes a threat. The knight on a7 still a little bit destabilized. So knight b5, another excellent move by Firouzja. Getting the knight out. Now, do you swap on c7? I think you do. And then you play knight takes d4 and you win the game.
Or maybe queen takes pawn and it still continues for another move or two.
Anything wins, but that's also a problem. Now you have to decide how you're going to win the game. Even queen to d6 should do the trick. Even giving up the c6 pawn, you're up so many pawns that you can give one of them away.
But you need to make a decision. Magnus's only chance is the clock now. It is going to be about trying to flag. But Daniel, 2.5 minutes in this position so far feels like it should be enough for White.
And with 2 extra pawns, just slide your queen over to c4. And the sad thing for Magnus is queen c4, bishop d5. You can play c7 even there. You could give up one queen, another one replaces it, and then black drops the bishop on c4. But you can sense the butterflies in Alireza's stomach. Under normal circumstances, he'd be making moves much faster than he is right now. Can he nail in the final nail in the coffin?
Literally some hair-raising chess here that we're seeing from Alireza. Queen e5, Magnus Carlsen, how does he keep the game going?
Now Alireza is down on the clock. He's down to 2 minutes, trying to find the forced win. We know the Magnus effect. We know how powerful it is. Queen to c4. He's found another perfect move. Queen c7. He'll just send the a-pawn down the board.
And
or
all
f3.
of black's pieces are tied down. You really don't want your queen. Well, there's a checkmate in one. You just simply block the bishop, attack the bishop, but that does allow some checks that you might have to be careful about.
Yeah,
how are you
but
hiding?
king h1.
You go king h2
h1.
and king h1. Or king h1,
Zigzag.
king h2.
Zigzag, Tanya. Queen e1, king h2. The c-pawn is going to seal the deal. Magnus should try to give up the bishop, hope for a mouse slip, do something dirty, put your queen on pre. Try everything.
The thing is, when your opponent's down to 20 seconds, you can try those tricks. But with Alireza having 2 minutes on the clock, Daniel, that's a lot of time. And it's Magnus who's actually lower than Alireza with 1 minute, 40 seconds right now, a dead lost position. This has been just a crazy championship match.
And Alireza is the patriarch of dirty tricks and bullet. That's who I learned from. Magnus he knows it's over. Alireza, he's not going to miss anything dumb. He did it again. Magnus Carlsen has resigned. Alireza has done the unimaginable. He has done